Okay, so again, I would like to welcome you to the and learning grammar and writing in the age of ChatGPT. My name is Laia Mogadam, and I am the SIG of this webinar and chair of this event. And I hope that you find this webinar to your education and learning, and I hope that you like it. Allow me to share my screen with you. Remove these. Perfect. I would like to take a moment to speak a little bit about who I am. I am an English language teacher, a teacher trainer, and an academic advisor from the United States. At the same time, as I mentioned earlier, I am the chair of this event. And I am a board member with TEFL Kuwait with the position of member at large, where I am in charge of promoting prospective individuals who are interested to join our organization. I'm not sure how many of you guys know what TEFL Kuwait is, but TEFL Kuwait is an educational organization in association with IA TEFL. It offers innovation, integration, digital transformation through education. Let's talk about teaching and learning grammar and writing in the age of ChatGPT. I would like to give you a little bit of a background of what this SIG is about. First of all, what is ChatGPT? This is a newly invented software that has taken over the world. ChatGPT is a large language model developed by AI based on the GPT, which stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer Architecture. It is designed to generate human-like responses to natural language prompt and can be used in a variety of applications such as chatbots, virtual assistants, and automated content creation. What are we going to talk about in this SIG? We will be discussing tactics and strategies on how to integrate grammar and writing into our lessons and how students can benefit from using ChatGPT. The vision of this SIG is to help and to develop highly competent educators who promote inclusive and transformative education practices in order to meet the challenges of learning grammar and writing with the use of technologies such as ChatGPT to promote tactics and methods which maximize students' learning and encourage them to love to write by reducing the affective filter.
Ben, tu me diras, parce que là, ça c'est 2 heures, okay?
I would appreciate if you guys please kindly mute yourself so that we can, the voice echoes in the background. Thank you very much. I would like to go over our agenda for today. We already started sharp at 5:30 p.m. with the greet, an introduction to teaching and learning grammar and writing in the age of ChatGPT by me. Then in a little bit, we have a very special featured speaker, Dr. Sebah AlAli, which is going to present her presentation on ChatGPT in grammar and writing classes, friend and foe. Then at 6:45 p.m., you have the floor to ask your questions and answers. And after the presentation, I will have the closing, which I'm going to go over some information that would be beneficial to you. Now, do you guys have a probably I went a little bit too fast, and we have some time for you guys to start asking questions if you would like to, before I give the floor to Dr. Sebah AlAli. I see so many faces around the world. I'm so privileged to have you guys join my webinar, and I hope that you find it beneficial. Is there any questions that I can start answering before we move forward with our schedule? Okay. As I am still admitting people are joining our webinar.
Hi,
Does
Laya.
anybody
Hi, everybody. Hi, Laya. This
Yes.
is Shadia. If you
Hi,
put
Shadia.
me
How
on
are
the-
you?
I'm doing great. This is a great event. Thank you. If you put me as a co-host, I can take care of the waiting
Thank
room.
you.
Okay.
Yes. It should be early over there, right?
Yes, it's 9:30 in the morning. Not that early, but
On a Saturday, right? Thank you
Yeah.
for joining, Shadia.
My pleasure.
Okay. So as we are earlier than expected on the schedule, I would like to introduce our featured speaker, Dr. Dr. Sebah AlAli. Dr. Sebah AlAli is a technology learning researcher, language teacher, and a web developer. Her research examines transitions and development in teaching and the roles of technology during moments of change and instability. Sebah is an advocate for the roles of theory in research processes and practice. Her research endeavors attempt to bridge gaps between theory and practice, with a particular aim to make theory more accessible to practitioners as researcher. I would like to invite Dr. Sebah AlAli. You have the floor to you. Please go ahead. I will stop sharing my screen so you can do so. Welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Leah, for this introduction, and thank you very much for organizing this event. It's actually a pleasure to
Sure.
be here. Let me make sure the video is not working. Let me just give me a second to troubleshoot it.
Sure.
Okay, hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining. And it's actually great to see people from different places. Oh, my table is such a big mess. Sorry, my desk. Sorry, it's just a lot of research. Okay, so let me start sharing my screen and let's get started. Let me first start by asking, how well does everyone know ChatGPT? What's your experience with ChatGPT? Let me say, you've used it before, you've just heard of it, you don't like it. What's the impression I'm getting here? If I can just get a quick in the chat box, if you can let me know, how well do you know ChatGPT, or how well have you used it? I liked it. Okay, nice. Used it, heard of it. Using it, Farheen, what kind of use have you implemented it for? Ali, I hope you heard good stuff about it. Scary stuff. Used it, Abdul. Great. Aisha, it's awesome. Yeah, using it. Great. Interesting. Okay, great. We see people haven't heard about it as well. Ali, exactly. Made my routine much easier. And actually, for me, it made my emails much more, much fancier, if you know what I mean. Helps a lot writing essays, introduction. I used it for some suggestions in my work. Amazing. Okay, great. So a lot of us have writing practices. Great. Okay, and if I can ask another question, what kind of audience do we have here? What virtual assistant? Very nice. What do we do? Can I have a quick from everyone? Like, are you teachers? Are you admins? Are you researchers? Are you? What kind of audience do we have today? I'm guessing a lot of you are language teachers. Yeah, Abdullah, teacher. Teacher, very nice. They're not to be biased, but teachers are always the best, right? Although we're very underpaid. Lecturer and researcher, business teacher. Underpaid and overloaded as well, right? Oh my God. Teacher, researcher, teacher. Amazing. Okay, great. So we have a lot of teachers and some researchers. So, and I think teachers are also some kind of researchers, because we're always looking, right? We're always looking for better opportunities, for better materials, for better ways to help our students in class. Okay, great. So I hope everyone will find some kind of use or some kind of benefit from today's session. And you'll come out of it with a few practical ideas to help you get started with ChatGPT in more hopefully useful ways or relevant ways to our classrooms. Okay, let me just start. Okay, great. So just a quick intro. In this session, we're just going to talk about introduce ChatGPT, because I feel, although a lot of people know about it, from my different workshops and presentations I've given, you'd be surprised how differently people see ChatGPT or understand ChatGPT. So it's very important from my point of view that we introduce ChatGPT in a proper way, make sure we're all on the same page and understand what it can and can't do. And also we're going to discuss some practical ideas that you can use for your grammar and writing classes as a teacher and as a student. But of course, those are just to get you started, because the ways you can use ChatGPT are just endless in everything and anything you have in mind. We've gone over the bio. Okay, so it's going to be like a trip today, like a multi-station journey. We're going to talk about the narrative first. We're going to discuss and explore the tool. We're going to discuss some guidelines and then talk about how it can be used for grammar and for writing. And then number 6, I forgot to add it at the end, some considerations that we need to keep in mind before we actually dive in and invest in ChatGPT in our classrooms or for our teaching and learning. Now, from the beginning, the main question that we've all been asked, even academia as in general, how should we feel about ChatGPT? Should we is it an enemy that we need to be careful of? Is it the boogeyman, or you know what I mean? That we've always were frightened about, that we knew was coming, but we're trying not to think about? Or is it a friend that we can utilize in our classrooms? Or is it both? Today, we're going to discuss that and try to reach common grounds. And I think most of you have taken it as a friend. Can I have a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a yes or no? Most of you have taken ChatGPT as a friend so far? Yes, I see a first yes. Thank you, Leia. Abdul, yes. Okay, I've got 2 yeses. I'm guessing the rest are also yes. Okay, so when ChatGPT first came out, it came out in early, depends on your intentions and purposes, like, yeah, friendly. I like that, Alia. Okay, it is a double-edged sword. Okay, so when ChatGPT first appeared in our world, or first was released, it was released at the end of November, 30th November of 2022. And we were just kind of recovering from this whole COVID, coma that we've been in for a very long time. It was a big plot twist for the world, right? And then ChatGPT gave us a different kind of plot twist to how things are run. And it was in a matter of a week, everyone started talking about it, and the news started talking about it. It was kind of a little bit scary than it is interesting, because it was so powerful back then. It looked so powerful and so different that people were unsure how to feel about it. A lot of educators or people who are reporting about academia were kind of stunned by how well it can write things. I mean, we all know that writing is kind of one of the hardest things that you'd expect a student to perform or to produce, but then ChatGPT made it look like it can be done like that. And even some news articles and journalists and academics started thinking about that it might be the end of the English classrooms, it might be the end of the essay, and it might also be, and it might also kind of force us to redefine or reconsider how we do assessment, which I think is long overdue. We've been talking about it for a very long time, but we haven't done anything about it. And even some educators have explored the use of ChatGPT for passing exams, standard exams, and ChatGPT outperformed the average person in very surprising ways. ChatGPT 4 even more than that. And also a lot of universities came out banning ChatGPT and warning against it. I think it was Cambridge and Oxford that came out and said that we need to make sure that students don't use it for their assessments. And the question was always there, and it's still here. I mean, this is in 14th March, although right now it's June. Asking about ChatGPT and its effect on language classrooms in specific and language assessment, because it is basically producing language more than anything else, although it can produce code and all that, but it made it very difficult for us to kind of just ignore it. So teachers were forced to kind of consider it. Teachers were forced and academics were forced to look at it and see what needs to be done with this tool in mind. And I think all of us, now that we're going to talk more about it. After this first rush of fear that a lot of academics and a lot of people felt towards ChatGPT for it in terms of its effect on academia and on education and even on our jobs as well, a lot of people right now are starting to understand that it's here to stay, and we need to start thinking of ways of living with those tools and utilizing them for our own good, rather than just banning them and considering them as an enemy that needs to be stopped in every single way we can think of. A recent article or post by an assistant professor of English at a university in the States said, I think it's going to be possible. I don't think it's going to be possible to say you can't use AI in your writing and just to ignore it and pretend it's not there. It's here to stay. And I think, honestly, ethically speaking, from a teacher's perspective, I think we're ethically responsible to prepare our students to use ChatGPT and other tools for their language purposes, because they're going to be employed in a world that is driven by AI and like tools like ChatGPT and so many others. So we are ethically responsible to kind of help them see how they can navigate these tools to use them productively and responsibly for their language use and for their emails, for all the things that we help them to learn as language users. And even Bill Gates joined this discussion, and he came out in, I think it was early March, and he said AI is as fundamental as the personal computer and as the internet. And if you think about it, I think, although a lot of us, I've lived in a world pre-internet. It wasn't the Stone Age, but I mean, we've seen how the world has changed from pre-internet to post-internet. I mean, I wasn't old enough to understand ticket booking before the internet, but my father used to tell me that before the internet, they actually had to go to a certain office, which could be like half an hour away, drive to it, look at available flights, then go back home, consider the options and what they can do as a family, and then go back to drive again, like half an hour or even longer, to the travel office to book the ticket. And it was a hassle. And right now we can do it like that with the internet. The reason I'm using this example is to show you how the world has been redefined with the internet in ways that we cannot function without it anymore. And I think this is how the world is heading, what the world is headed towards with ChatGPT and artificial intelligence tools, especially generative AI. Generative AI is basically one kind of AI, one kind of artificial intelligence that basically allows artificial intelligence tools to generate content in ways that mimic how humans would generate them, like images, videos, audios, and text like ChatGPT. Okay, so before we move on, may I ask you to describe ChatGPT in one word? Let's see what opinions we have. It is disruptive and it is scary. It's scary how powerful it is. It's scary how it's not regulated yet. So it can be very scary in that sense, and how we can't control it. Useful, inspiring, a perfect teacher. You'll see it can make some mistakes, but it's a good teacher. Adventurous, distortion, extremely helpful. Yes. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, for small businesses. Great. Okay, so we generally have some positive views of it. Okay, great. So I think we all agree with the way things are happening. And I mean, it's just been 6 months or 7, and now everyone's talking about ChatGPT. And one of the biggest, I forgot to add a slide about that, one of the biggest milestones for ChatGPT that is a record, it reached 1 million users. Okay, let me first give you background. For TikTok, we all know TikTok. TikTok now is the most famous social media outlet, right? For TikTok to reach 1 million users, it took it around 6 to 9 months, okay? Who wants to guess how long, let's say, did it take ChatGPT to reach its first million users? If you know the right answer, then don't, please share. But if you want to guess, how long do you think it took ChatGPT to reach its first million users, knowing that TikTok took around 6 to 9 months? Any guesses? 1 month, okay. Solid. 3 months. 3. 1 week. 5 days. It took ChatGPT 5 days to hit its 1 million user. And in January 2023, a few months ago, that's a month after its release, it was reported that there were 13 million daily active users. Was it 13 million? I have to check. I forgot to put the screenshots. It was 13 million daily users, active users for ChatGPT. That's a very big number. That's why they're making us pay right now, like $20 a month. It's a lot of money, but I mean, I gotta pay it. You know what I mean? So it's here to stay. And once ChatGPT was out, everything else was just running off of it, right? We have different tools and all those websites that are telling about different generative AI tools and so on. So although it's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of us, the ChatGPT era is just getting started. Okay, it's not going anywhere and it's here to stay. And there are so many websites out there that like are dreadfully full of tools, endless tools to help you with anything you want to generate in terms of AI. And it can be very scary and overwhelming. So if I were you, I would just stick to one or two and then just go on from there. Don't overwhelm yourself with those. They can be scary. Okay, and another example to show you that it's here to stay is how far it's developed. So when I first started using it, so in December, it came out like in 30th November. So it started in December, okay? In December, it was on GPT 3.5, and now it's GPT 4 and 3.5. So at the beginning, just to show you how ChatGPT is developing, right? And how powerful it's becoming. I asked ChatGPT to give me research sources about discussing ChatGPT. Now, I gotta say, it wasn't my brightest moment, because if you think about it, in December, when I asked this question, ChatGPT was literally a week or 2 weeks old. It's impossible for it to have any kind of research published on ChatGPT in that time, right? So, I mean, it was a stupid question to ask. But ChatGPT was very nice. Not only that, it was more than nice. And it said, yeah, sure, here it is. Here you go. Here are 3 sources that talked about ChatGPT in education. But we all know that I mean, at the time I didn't realize it, but ChatGPT was just like a week old, and it gave me sources that talked about ChatGPT in 2020, in 2019, and in 2017. Now, at the time, I didn't realize that ChatGPT can actually fabricate data, but look at how real this looked. And I got to be honest and admit that it took me 2 weeks looking for those sources. And I was so frustrated, like I couldn't find them. I know I have my ways, until I realized that number one, ChatGPT can fabricate data. And number two, it's impossible for someone in 2017, no matter how great they are at predicting things, for them to have done research about the potential of ChatGPT for digital literacy skills in 2017. COVID wasn't there at then, even COVID, you know? And you can look at it, how amazingly fabricated, real it looked. Like it could see language learning, use of an assessment, which is a very good topic, tutoring in higher education, a case study, exploring the potential of ChatGPT, and look at the number of the journals and the names of it's amazing. So I asked it this question in December. Yeah, Shadia. So I learned my mistake. You just never asked ChatGPT for references. But again, I don't correct myself. I say this with a little bit of hesitation, because ChatGPT 4, like this is in December, okay? In June, a few weeks ago, GPT 4, because I like to waste my money, I asked it to give me sources, the same question, give me sources discussing ChatGPT. You want to see the answer? Mind-blowing. It's the development, okay? So here, it just lied to me, to my face, without saying that it's a lie. And then look at it here. It actually gave me sources with links, okay? Actual links. And not only that, but you can notice here that the titles are no longer limited to ChatGPT. It understands that when I ask about ChatGPT, resources can go beyond that, the titles. So language models are a few shot learners. What else? The OpenAI blog and so on. Of course, there were some fabrications, but less than they were before. And its ability to give me correct answers, or the answers that I'm looking for, is just starting to get better and better. And it's not going to stop here. It's just endlessly going to improve, right? So I think if we ask this question again, I think we all know that the right answer, the smart answer for us as teachers, is to go with the friend button, right? We got to take it as a friend, and we got to, it's true that as teachers, we're going to have to do a lot of work to work around how our classes and classrooms, teaching, assessment, how our learning experiences are designed in order to account for ChatGPT, but we got to do it at some point. Abdulaziz, okay, that's nice. You can. I also think Perplexity is a good source if you want for sources. We can share it at the end. Perplexity gives you sources, and Bing also, because it has access to the internet. And also right now, if you use ChatGPT 4 with Bing, you can have access to the internet, so you'll have better sources. And there are some plugins with ChatGPT 4 that allow you to access Scholar and different sources on the internet. So it's getting better. The game is changing. We need to add it as a friend. So now that I hope, do we all agree with this conclusion right now before I move on? Or am I just saying this on your behalf, like the Arab dictator I am? Great, kind of, okay. Okay, we're going to convince you, Shadi. We're going to get there. But see, I'm saying this, and I know that it's not all a rosy picture. I mean, we got to take it with a lot, not just a grain of salt, but a lot of salt when we're introducing these tools and trying to integrate them. It's not an easy process, but we'll see. So let's first talk about the tool. Now that we're kind of almost all of us, except for Shadia, who's a troublemaker. No, I'm just kidding. Since all of us see that we're here to take it on. Okay, so let's first talk about the tool. Initially, it started off as a website that can be accessed on the internet, which wasn't really friendly for young people. And you basically ask it any kind of questions you have, and it'll give you amazing answers, and it'll talk with you like it's your best friend about anything and everything. So when I first started using it, I asked about Tony Robbins, I asked it about financial market, I asked it about cooking, I asked it about you name it, and it was able to give me answers that made a lot of sense to me. And right now, more recently for iOS, they released the app. It doesn't give you a different experience from the internet, but it's just more easily accessible on your phone than you having to go to the website, which is kind of clunky on the phone. And what's amazing about this tool, especially when it first came out, the reason it was so mind-blowing is that it gave us access to artificial intelligence in ways we never thought possible before for the general public like us, right? And more so is that it gave you access to a human-like chatbot that is not like those very annoying chatbots on the airline websites. You know those? Like I want to talk to the agent, I want to talk to the agent, or the ones on the phone. They're so annoying because they're pre-programmed with specific answers that they can't go beyond, or they can't give you any other answers other than the ones that they have in their system. With ChatGPT, it gave you a chatbot, but it was more creative. It was more responsive to what I wanted as a person. It was like I was talking to my friend, and really at some point I was like, oh my God, that's a funny joke. No, it never gave funny jokes actually. I was like, yeah, buddy, can you help me with that? So you feel like you're kind of talking to someone who cares. I'm not a lonely person. Or I said that, I was like, I shouldn't have said that. I'm not a lonely person to think that ChatGPT cares, but I mean, it does give you that vibe, okay? And it basically gives you access to tons and tons and tons of information. And again, as I said, what's magical about it is that you don't need any kind of programming or coding to get what you want from ChatGPT. We're all equal, okay? Well, but I say this, and I kind of correct myself. From my experience with my students, it does require a certain level of language proficiency. So students who are not as strong with English will kind of struggle a little bit with using ChatGPT. I mean, I even gave the student the prompt and I told her, copy paste this and use it. She struggled a lot. And in Arabic, it's not as strong as it is in English or in other languages, I'm guessing. So yes, digital literacy, Abdulaziz, yes. We kind of have to be careful about that. Okay, but again, we don't need coding, we don't need programming. What we just do is we say, I need help. And then we go to this language model, try to use it, and then we simply input a request, or what is now commonly known as a prompt. A prompt is basically right now a very popular or common word that we've come to use right now in prompt engineering as well. You just input what you want, ask ChatGPT to give you something, and we call this a prompt. And right now it's becoming a form of art, because the saying goes, ChatGPT is only as smart as the user is, or as the prompt is. So your prompt that you give ChatGPT will basically define the outcome that you get and the experience that you have with ChatGPT. And there are so many workshops going out around there, and also publications, and I'll be sharing one of them today. Okay, so when you enter that prompt into ChatGPT, which is mainly called a large language model. This is the new term for it. Prompt engineering is a job right now. I thought it was, I heard a lot about that, Iman, and I searched for it on LinkedIn. I didn't find prompt engineering jobs, honestly, but there are some courses, and I know as a user, when I started to learn more about prompting and develop those frameworks to help me understand how to use ChatGPT better, it was a game changer. So I highly recommend you. And there's, I think, a course on LinkedIn to take, which I haven't taken. I'll share with you some sources at the end. But I'm so excited about it. Okay, let's just go through this. But that's a good point, Iman. So you basically get the prompt and then you give it to the language model. Okay, and what it basically does, and this is where the magic, the black box is. What it basically does, it looks at the context. Okay, and so far, give or take, it's around 1,500 words. Okay, so it looks, that's why when you have one window, one chat with ChatGPT, the previous chats that you've asked ChatGPT in this window will kind of help ChatGPT redirect its answer to relate to those previous chats. So if you're talking about something new, it's always a good idea to start a new window, a new chat, so that you have zero context to begin off. Yes, so it'll look at the context, and this context includes the prompt that you gave it and the specific things that you gave to ChatGPT, asking it to give what it wants, to give you what you want. And then it employs its training. Okay, and this is where the magic happens, machine learning. Okay, what does this mean? So before ChatGPT was released to the public, and this is where its magic is, before it was released to the public, it was trained on 500 gigabytes of data, textual data. 500 gigabytes, that's a lot. That's like, I think all the internet is 500 gigabytes. I think, I'm not sure, I'm just kidding. Okay, but now when you ask ChatGPT, it'll tell you that this textual data is not publicly released by AI, so we don't know what it really is technically. But from the sources that I've read, that the research sources and the open papers, white papers, they all say that it's basically archives and data sets that were freely available, books, web pages, and Wikipedia, right? So all of those websites, all of those content, all of that content, textual content was fed into ChatGPT, and then it was trained on it. And the way it does it, I also forgot to add it here, is that it did some machine learning, so supervised learning, unsupervised learning. And using this artificial intelligence learning, machine learning, it basically tried to detect patterns. It tried to understand how humans communicate, how we use language, and how we communicate with each other. So it's basically the way it works. It's tried to recognize patterns in a language, and then it tries to produce similar patterns to what it has seen, to what it has been trained on. Okay, this is why. Okay, so again, it's based on what it has, the data it's been fed or trained on. This is why you're going to see that when you're trying to interact with it in Arabic, for example, the kind of content you get in Arabic, a kind and expertise and depth and accuracy of the content you get in Arabic is much, much, much less than that is available in English. Why? Because the data that is available on the internet in Arabic is not as at the same level of depth or expertise as the data that is available in English. And I think all Arab users here agree. I mean, it's mostly news articles or it's trained a lot of data, Iman, but the thing is the data that is available for it is mostly in English, right? The data that is available for it in Arabic on the internet in Arabic is not that the same level of depth and expertise as that that is in English. Does it make sense? So there is more data for it to be trained on and more patterns for it to recognize in English than it is for it to recognize in Arabic. So it took all of that and it basically takes its understanding of this, it employs its training, and it then generates new content for you. And the way it generates content, and this is the most important part that I think is the game changer for me in the way I understand ChatGPT. It basically, the way I picture it, it's a very good guessing machine. It just, using the context, it keeps guessing gives you the best guess for the next word. It's like one word like best guess at a time. So gave you the best guess for this word, and then what's the best guess after it? What's the best guess after it? And it includes the context that you have and that you've generated. So including the context, considering the context, considering its training, it just keeps giving you the best guess it can give based on its understanding and based on those variables. Okay, so if you think about it, ChatGPT is basically a pattern recognition generating machine. You give it a pattern, it'll generate something like it. That's it. And this is where its power comes from for us as teachers, and especially as language teachers, as I'll share with you right now. However, now that we've understand this, we need to understand, because it's a pattern recognition generating machine, or basically a guessing machine. Yeah, here we go, Iman. It does not use logic or reason. يعني in Arabic ما في مخ. Okay, so it doesn't think, it doesn't think. Okay, so it can easily fabricate data or give you wrong answers, like really wrong answers, and just say, yeah, that's right. Why are you upset? You know what I mean? So we need to be careful about that. And I'm going to share with you some examples. So this is why the use of ChatGPT, or the introduction of ChatGPT into our world, really, really highlights the need for us to focus more and more on critical skills for our students, especially in our language classes. And this is another discussion to have. And this is, I mean, it's been here for a long time, especially with fake news and fake, misinformation and all that. We all know that we've been needing to teach our students critical skills for a very long time. We're just lagging behind. And I think this kind of stresses that idea more. So let me show you some examples. Now, I'm really bad with math, but ChatGPT can be even worse in math. I asked it this simple question: what is 100 times 100 divided by 400 times 56? Now, for me, this looks like it could be 1, the answer, I don't know. But if you ask math people, they're going to tell you the answer is 1400. And ChatGPT lied to me and said that the answer is that. Now, there are different ways to explain, and you can like do husn dhan and give ChatGPT the benefit of the doubt and try to see why it gave you this answer. But it's there. It gave me a wrong answer, and I had to be critical about my understanding, my reception of those this output, for me to understand this is wrong, and I can see where the mistake is and then help it fix it or see what it is. And also another instance happened, an ER doctor, which was a very smart use, I think. What he did is he used ChatGPT to diagnose his patients. Now, he didn't actually use it to give him answers, but he tried to test it. So those who came to ER, he would enter the information that he got from them and ask ChatGPT to give the diagnosis. And he said a lot of its results could have been deadly, because medicine, especially medicine, is very heavily reliant or dependent on context. And one small detail, I mean, we've all seen House and Grey's Anatomy and all that. One small detail can change the whole diagnosis and change the answer to your problem, right? And those details keep popping up and keep changing as you go. So ChatGPT failed to account for that. So again, it can make mistakes. They can be deadly. They can be wrong. So we need to mistakes can be wrong. All mistakes are wrong. Sorry, not enough coffee. So we need to be careful. We need to be critical, and we need to understand ChatGPT's limitations. Yes, Ali, it definitely can't replace human wisdom. And that's why, but what they're saying right now is that while ChatGPT cannot replace those human who use ChatGPT and artificial intelligence will replace those who don't. It's like those who use Excel sheets, right? If you still do math by hand, good luck to you. I think those who use Excel sheets are going to get way faster, and like, you know what I mean? So we need to use this technology to our advantage. However, we should not let it we should not be limited by those tools. Okay. So now that we've seen its limitations, let's just summarize this whole section by saying it generates a default answer unless you ask it to regenerate. Yes, Mohammed, it does. It gives you a default answer. Yeah, exactly. And what's also magical about it, I guess, and interesting, is that every time it generates, you ask it the same question, it can generate endless possibilities for you, which is some kind of it's kind of amazing. Yes, exactly. Yeah, this code has been said by a lot of people. It's good to see that it's actually been said by this person. Thank you, Abdulaziz, for sharing. Okay, so what do we need to know about ChatGPT now before we move on? First of all, ChatGPT can generate any kind of content, text content. Okay, it can give you poems. It can give you jokes, but they're very lame. It can give you essays. It can give you quizzes. Can give you resumes. It can give you any kind of text content. Okay, even plays, anything. Oh, you can also ask it to write a research paper for you. It's going to be so dull, but it can give you something to start with. Okay, and we also, very important for us to understand that ChatGPT generates content by predicting the most probable outcome. So again, it's a guessing machine, and that's why its answers can be wrong. There can be inaccurate. Okay. Another very important aspect to consider is that ChatGPT heavily depends on the context that you provide. So the more specifics you provide, the better outcome you will get if you have something specific in mind. But if you want to brainstorm and look for ideas, it's probably better to not give ChatGPT any context and see how far it'll take you, and then maybe try to refine it after that. One example of context that you can give is, this has been as a very common recommendation, is to ask it to act as a certain thing. So ask it to act as a marketing professional, as an academic writing professor, as an HR representative, whatever you want, and give it some context. So where is it functioning? So here it could be functioning, teaching a group of basic research skill course for students who are learning the basic parts of research, or you're teaching students who are learning grammar, Arab students, and so on. So these are very important in terms of context. So give it a role and give it some kind of context to see where are you placing this, this prompt. Another very, very important context is to give it an actual example of what you have in mind. And this is amazing, especially for us as language teachers. So for closed test, it'll generate something very nice for you based on this. And as we're going to see today and some of the examples, the way I've used this, the way I've used this in class is that I would give it, you know how, and when we teach writing, we like to have students correct the common mistakes they normally do, right, in writing. So that's one approach I do in writing. And I see that it's very hands-on and students appreciate it because they get to see the mistakes and they develop their own thinking of how to spot the mistakes and how to correct them. Of course, I help them and guide them. But what was exhausting for me as a teacher is for me to keep generating those mistakes for them. I mean, you run out of ideas and you just keep generating the same kind of content over and over again. So what I did with ChatGPT, I gave it an example. I took one example of an essay that was generated by a student, but I then mimicked it. I didn't take students' content. I generated a similar essay, and then I asked it to give me a similar essay with similar mistakes. And it gave me another essay with same mistakes. So I used that example to give to my students to correct the mistakes and to identify them. I've used one. Yes, please, Sameh, please do share. Anything you have would be very useful for everyone and anyone here, including me. So again, examples can also provide a very good tool for ChatGPT to give you the output that you need. But we also need to keep in mind that ChatGPT can make mistakes and biases because it's basically based on biased content that is available on the internet. Another example to keep in mind in terms of biases and mistakes, especially in terms of grading. So as we said, ChatGPT is very heavily dependent on context. So what they noticed when using ChatGPT to grade essays, after a few you give it the rubric and you give it the essays to grade, after a few grading attempts, it'll start giving you answers that are grades that are not reliable anymore, not the same as they were before. So you need to be careful about how you use it and keep in mind that while it can give you good solid answers or solid feedback, it can also make mistakes and give you biases towards the end. And also something else to keep in mind that ChatGPT content must be critically examined every time and anytime you use ChatGPT in your class or with your students. Okay. Another thing to keep in mind, one last thing to keep in mind is privacy. Recently, a few months ago, Samsung reported a very huge data leak because their employees were using ChatGPT to help them with code that is Samsung only kind of code or data, and that was a big problem for them. So we need to be very careful about the kind of data we provide ChatGPT, and we need to be very careful about it. So for example, we cannot give any kind of student data to ChatGPT. If you're trying to enter that, try to change students' names, try to change any identifiers that would identify your students. And also, we need to take students' permission before we plug in their essays or whatever content they produce into ChatGPT. So if we don't have their permission to use ChatGPT on their content, we can't basically copy paste whatever they produced into that. We need to have their permission. And we also need to be careful about institution-only data. We need to also be careful about that and not plug it into ChatGPT. Okay. So with all of this in mind, we can see that we are the world is gonna be run by ChatGPT and similar tools in the future. And as I said before, we're ethically responsible to integrate it into our classrooms, and to kind of find ways to have it as a friend, as an assistant for us and for the students in class, to help us develop a more effective learning environment and more personalized to a certain extent. Okay. So what are the guidelines? So before, usually when we use ChatGPT as teachers, we need to have some certain guidelines, and also for students as well, to keep in mind. First of all, ChatGPT is a great starting point, but it's only that. This is what I always stress with teachers and with students. And you're going to see the more you use it, I mean, especially with language, and if we're trying to use it for basic language skills with our students, even sometimes when you say, I only want A2 language, please, or basic language, it'll bypass that and give you something that is more advanced than what you want. So ChatGPT, what I'm trying to say, ChatGPT content that is delivered by ChatGPT is very good, but it's only good as a starting point. You need to take it, you need to modify it, you need to edit it, you need to change a lot of things about it. But I mean, that starting point saves us a lot of time. And we all know how teachers, it can be very difficult for us to keep wasting a lot of valuable time on things that can be done within seconds, in a matter of seconds with ChatGPT. Yes, we need to personalize it further, Abdulaziz. That's a great point. Is there a tracking method for, say, that's a good question. Please remind me to discuss this towards the end. And also, as we said, ChatGPT content is only as good as your input. So you need to learn prompting basics. You need to include as much context as possible. And it's also a very good idea to take it in steps. So don't overwhelm ChatGPT with something. So for example, you can ask it to first give you an essay, and then ask it to include certain vocabulary items, and keep going on and on as you move. That's a good point, Sadia. I like that. So you need to take it in steps. And a very good article, this is a new study published about prompting for teachers. And I found it very, very good, a very good read. I put the link in the chat box. It's an open access study, and it gives you basically, it discusses some prompting basics that they have developed and developed for higher education teachers. And it's actually a very good read for you to look at. And there are so many studies. There is an article. Yes, Sameh. The thing is about, there are so many, as you've already guessed, there are so many websites and tools and resources that talk about artificial intelligence and ChatGPT, that it sometimes can be so overwhelming. I mean, you just don't know where to go or how to go or which ones to trust, and some of them can be very difficult. We're going to talk more about ChatGPT 0, Faiz. I forgot to add this. Okay, we're going to talk more about it. I'm going to show you some examples today. Okay, so we need to be careful about the kind of sources that we consult, and I'll talk more about that at the end as well. I keep saying I'm going to talk more about it. Okay. Also, and also another thing, guidelines, is that we also always need to triple check the accuracy, relevance, and the appropriateness of what ChatGPT develops or creates for us. Now, and one last thing to say for us, especially as teachers and researchers, ChatGPT is not a co-author, but the use of it must be acknowledged. So you need to say somewhere that you have used ChatGPT in the process of creating the content that you have delivered. And it was funny, like when ChatGPT first came out, there were some studies. There was a study I remember that was published in a paper that listed ChatGPT as a co-author. And it was frowned upon big time. So we don't do that anymore, but we just mentioned that we've used ChatGPT somehow. That's a good question. I don't know how to say your name, but you need to ask your institution, because different institutions have different policies about it. And this is the interesting part, is how different institutions are approaching it in terms of policies. And just be clear about it. But what I tell my students is that if you're using ChatGPT, you need to let me know that you've used it. You need to let me know how you've used it. And what I tell my students is that they need to make sure that they do not take any content generated by ChatGPT as is. That it should be their own words. But maybe your institution might have a different policy, so you should check that. And I think a lot of institutions still don't know what to do. They're just starting. Okay, so after we've seen these guidelines, and after we've kind of understood a little bit what to a certain extent what ChatGPT is, how can we use it in grammar, right? In our grammar classes or for our grammar classes. One first example idea, and we talked about this, is to use it to correct the mistakes. So errors or mistakes that students would normally produce. And ChatGPT can be very helpful with that. And this is a prompt. Wait, let me just copy it and paste it for you in the chat box that I've used with ChatGPT. So act as an ESL teacher, create an error correction activity for me. Generate a short paragraph about sightseeing that includes 5 common mistakes Arabic-speaking students would normally make with past tense verbs. So I was specific about what I wanted to do. The language of the paragraph should be easy and accessible to A1 to A2 students. Now, again, as I said, ChatGPT sometimes can be unpredictable. The first time, you might think it's funny. The first time I gave it this prompt, you know what it did? It gave me a paragraph in Arabic. What? ما في معلومة أرباب هذا ما في. So I had to kind of rephrase it a little bit, and then so you need to, it's a process with ChatGPT, right? And it actually gave me a good example, but it was a little bit difficult, so I had to tone it down. So here's an example. It said, here's a short paragraph with common mistakes. And then I used that, you can use that in your class to basically correct those mistakes. So you can see how the first mistake goes to visit London, went to visit London, and so on. So it can help you with generating content for your students, for your classes endlessly. And what you can do also is have that, give that prompt to students and have students practice with ChatGPT. What I'm trying to develop right now for my courses is I'm developing a small handbook for students to add, to use for ChatGPT. In it, I will be including prompts that they can use to study for the exam, prompts they can use to practice for their different topics that we have in the class. So we need to guide students how to use ChatGPT in different ways. Abdulaziz, yeah, there aren't, but there are a lot of sources right now, like that I've read in terms of APA. They say that you can use it in terms of like refer to it as a personal communication kind of reference source. And some universities, their guidelines mention, I don't have the names right now. I can share them with you later. Their policies actually state that you need to somewhere in your documents say that you have used ChatGPT. Again, it's very dependent on each university, each classroom, each teacher even, and you need to refer to those to see what they have to say. Will do, Abdulaziz. Okay, and also another great idea I found with ChatGPT to use with grammar is to explain things that are not clear to our students. So I asked it here to act as an English teacher, explain the perfect tense, we all know how difficult it can be, to my students that make in ways that will make sense to Arabic speaking students. And please provide examples. I copy and paste the prompt for you. Sayed, do I have to feed your course content before asking students to how prepare for a particular exam? Sayed, no, you don't have to feed it the course content, because ChatGPT basically has some kind of understanding of the different concepts you cover in your course. So you can say that my course has those learning outcomes. You copy and paste the learning outcomes. Please generate a practice quiz for me covering learning outcome 1 or learning outcome 2. Okay. So this is an example of one way. And what I liked is the kind of content it gave me. It actually gave me something in English and Arabic. And it gave me some examples that would make sense to our students in Arabic. I don't know if the majority, if some of you here teach Arabic students or not, but I thought it would be because it's Kuwait and so on. About it, okay. It can give you good examples, and it can basically explain it for students as well in better ways. And for me as a teacher, it can generate examples for me to keep using. Sorry, it's just getting really hot here and I'm running out of air. Can I just have like 1 minute to do something about it? Because I can't breathe anymore. Just 1 second, sorry.
Sure, Sebah, I know it's very hot here in UAE and we're boiling here. Basically, you can't really even breathe when you go outside, so.
Yes, and it's starting to get like that here. I can't breathe
Yes,
anymore.
yes, you have to consume
Sorry,
a lot of
everyone. Sorry.
water. Go on, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Okay. Also, how hot is it in Algeria, Abdulaziz? Everyone, how hot is it today in your country? Let's see. Let's play a contest. I think we went 38 degrees. Come on, this is winter for us. How hot is it today? Is it in the 36? That's late winter. Yes, 43. Now this is what I'm talking about. In the afternoon it could get, and it's still just summer just started. 23, Shadia. Wow, I'm jealous. In the morning it's around 37, 38. In the afternoon it's 48, 47. Yes, say it exactly. Cloudy. Wow, I'm jealous. Not here. And summer just started yesterday. 43 in Riyadh, yeah. With humidity also it can get really bad. Okay. So I'm glad that we all understand why. I'm sorry that I had to go out and turn on the AC. But now it's going to get really cold. 22, is that, Doris, is that summer for you guys? 24, is that summer or are you guys in winter? Summer, oh. I'm jealous. Okay, well, you guys are lucky. So, okay, another way to use it is this, and this is an activity that I like to play with my students. Yeah, they are lucky. Watermelons can be very helpful, yes, and a lot of ice. Okay, this is another example that I like to use with my students. Is I tell them to open ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to explain something to them in their own language in Arabic. Okay. Wow, 53, Pakistan. Well, see, when you open the weather topic, it doesn't close, right? Everyone wants to say, yeah, wants to win. But 53, that's very hot. Good luck to you guys. Okay, so let's get back to ChatGPT where the weather is kind of a little bit hot, but not too hot. Thank you. Sorry, I hope you didn't hear that. Okay, so let's see. So what I do with my students is I ask them to ask ChatGPT to explain something to them in Arabic, but we don't stop here. What I actually tell them to do is, did ChatGPT explain this to you correctly or properly in Arabic, right? Because we know ChatGPT can make a lot of mistakes. Oh, that's a very good view, Samir, mashallah. Can make a lot of mistakes. And with this in mind, students become the experts. So they come and ask me. So I tell them, this is what ChatGPT told me. What I want you to do is I want you to prepare a slide or a presentation for me and tell me, is this correct or not? And explain to me, where did it get it wrong and where did it get it right? Right. And you'll see that they'll act really like professionals and experts. They come ask me for ideas and for help, and they do their own search. They keep asking ChatGPT more questions. So it kind of helps them get their hands dirty and they explore the content in a deeper, in a more sophisticated way somehow. Yeah, Edmundo. And they basically enjoy it a lot, not only with that, but also with content. Like, for example, I asked ChatGPT to give me the 10 most common things, 10 most popular things about Sharjah, where I'm based. I'm based in the UAE. It's a city next to Sharjah, next to Dubai. And not a lot of people know what Sharjah is and or what it's famous for. So I asked ChatGPT in front of the student to give me 5 facts about Sharjah. And it gave me the most lamest answer you would expect to see in an encyclopedia that is very outdated. So what I told my students is, this is what ChatGPT told me about Sharjah. It doesn't look really nice, according to ChatGPT. What I want you to do, I want you to teach ChatGPT today. So let's teach ChatGPT about Sharjah. And each one of you is going to give me a presentation about one element of Sharjah that you think should be added to ChatGPT, or ChatGPT should know about. So they talked about the restaurants. We have here a very big selection of restaurants in the area. Talked about the wildlife center that we have. So they saw with this activity, and I tried to include this in every single class that I have, not because I like to talk about, I love Sharjah, but not because I like that, but I want them to see that ChatGPT does not know everything, and it can include content that is inaccurate or that is not as comprehensive as we want it to be. And I allow them to see that they can know more than ChatGPT does. And this also encourages them to be more critical of what ChatGPT gives them. Another example was another question that you can use in your class for this activity. And again, of course, you can always manipulate this activity for language learning, for grammar or for writing or speaking or whatever. Another activity that they also seem to enjoy. Now, we all know our students are very well-versed when it comes to social media and influencers and makeup and all that. So what I asked ChatGPT in front of them is to give me 5 famous influencers in the UAE. Yes, very meaningful, Shadi, exactly. Give me 5 popular influencers from the UAE. I asked ChatGPT. It gave me answers, but they were 3 of them or 2 of them were not basically Emirati. They were based in the UAE, but they're not from the country. And students basically were kind of a little bit annoyed that they felt not as represented as they wanted to be, as they felt that they should be. So they generated their own presentation about famous influencers from the country, and they really appreciated that. So it kind of changed the narrative a little bit about what ChatGPT can do and how limited it is. And I kind of appreciated that to be included in my class. Hamad, the question is, which approach would be better to utilize AI in teaching grammar? It seems that it prefers grammar translation approach, the Arabic version. It's based, well, you have to manipulate how you have to be very specific about how you give it your prompts, Mohammed, and how you want it to do it. So you can ask it to give you closed tests. You can ask it to give you a grammar in context. It's how you approach it in your class and how you want it to do it. But the default version might be as you said. Yeah. Okay. So we can use ChatGPT to help students explain things differently, explain grammar for the students in different ways and different approaches. Another idea to use with explaining things is to ask ChatGPT to simplify something for students. So for example, I have 0 financial skills. I asked ChatGPT to explain the stock market for me, explains the stock market for me like I'm 5 years old. And it was clear, finally. I finally understood the stock market like a 5-year-old would. And then I said, okay, let's take it up a notch. So explain it to me like I'm 11 years old. And it was a little bit harder for me. But again, you can simplify it and you can use those terms to help ChatGPT contextualize the content that you want or the delivery that you want based on what you need. Okay. Am I going too fast? I think we're all good, right? We just have a few more slides.
You're all good. Thank you, Sebah.
Okay, great, thank you. But in this case, do we evaluate the credibility of students' answers or their fluency? Mohammed, that's a very good question. Sorry, the chair. It's old, that's why. It's not because I'm fat. Mohammed, it depends on your rubric. See, again, I love your question because this means that we need to think differently about how we're using ChatGPT. So, I mean, I don't think it's a matter, I don't know. The straight answer is I don't know, but we need to start experimenting with it because honestly, I haven't used it for assessment purposes. I just used it in class to see how far they went. But for example, what I would include in a rubric that uses ChatGPT, I would definitely include, yes, Mohammed, but a lot has changed right now with ChatGPT in the picture. It's not this typical language class that we normally do and normally have. So one thing that I would definitely include in a rubric about that use for an activity that employs ChatGPT is, first of all, how critical were students of ChatGPT content. So I would have to check the accuracy of the information. And actually 0 before that. I would always require students, and this is something that I mentioned next, I always require students to give me a log of their prompts. I want to see which prompts they use and what content I want to see how they use ChatGPT. So this is a skill that I would be grading them on, that they gave me a record of their interaction with ChatGPT. I want to see how they were able to evaluate, what did they do to evaluate the content that they got from ChatGPT? What did they evaluate the content and the accuracy of it and the correctness of it? And then how did they add their own knowledge to it? So I want to make sure they have to prove to me that they did not just depend on content generated from ChatGPT to produce this content. I want them to consult other sources. I want them to develop whatever it is to develop that content. And then of course, I judge their language skills and all. We're all after this lesson objectives and the curriculum math. Well, Mohammed, I think a lot of this kind of falls under, I mean, if you look at our learning outcomes, in our learning outcomes, we don't, although it's language-based, but we also want to teach students how to use language with different topics, right? Everyday topics. We want to teach them how to use the language in different circumstances. So with this, we're kind of giving them the chance to use language with the use of ChatGPT in different ways, about different contexts. We're kind of, to a certain extent, targeting those learning outcomes, but just using different tools or using different assistants. Well, Mohammed, I think right now research skills are going to be a big part of almost every class. Yeah, not only in English class, it's going to have to be something, a basic skill, just like writing and typing. You have, every student in every class will have to be specific about that, or they have to be just basic. Now, yeah, the more specific the prompt we provide, the more accurate the answers will be. Not necessarily. It can be, but it can also still fabricate data. I used it to correct students' work, especially writing. Sameh, yeah, you need to be careful. That's a good use, but you need to be careful about that because sometimes ChatGPT cannot always be a reliable assistant with that. It adds some. We can have a longer discussion, Muhammad, later about this. I know where you're coming from, and I appreciate your perspective. And I'm trying to reach a middle ground, so we need to discuss it further later. But let's move on with this. Thank you, Muhammad. You should tell that to my mom. Okay. Yes, Sameh. So you need to be careful about grading essays with ChatGPT because a lot of people realize that it can be irreliable. What some teachers did, oh, here's another activity for you to use. Oh, this was amazing. Again, so we're trying to see how, I'm running out of time. Okay, sorry, I'm just gonna be quick about this. What some teachers did with ChatGPT.
You're fine, actually.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Okay, what some teachers did with ChatGPT, especially with writing, and now we said ChatGPT can be sometimes, it can give you the correct answer, it can give you something reliable, it can give you sometimes something that is not inaccurate. So what one teacher did, because as you know, it's very important for students to understand the rubric, right? Because they need to understand what they're expected to. This is actually one of my first lessons in a writing class. We open the rubric and students hate it. But at the end of the course, they say, thank you for giving us a lesson about the rubric. So we introduce the rubric and we understand what each element it covers, and then we take it from one level to another. So what kind of, and I show them examples. I give them a paragraph. And I tell them this paragraph will go under which category, which grade, and why. So we try to see it and analyze it, so they become their own critics, their own they have their own evaluation techniques based on the rubric. Okay, and they know, and based on that, they would understand the importance of the lessons that we have, because everything goes back to the rubric. Everything falls on self-assessment. I love that, Shadia. Thank you. Everything is geared towards getting that A in the course. They all want the A, right? So one activity you can do after we introduce the rubric to the class and after they understand the different elements, we ask the class, Yalla, let's take this essay, give the rubric to ChatGPT, and ask ChatGPT to give us feedback. But we don't stop here. We say, okay, where did ChatGPT get this right, and where did it fall short? Why was it an inaccurate grade? Why was it an accurate grade? So students actually discuss this with each other and see. And what you can do to prepare them for this in class is that you would generate this different essays and ask ChatGPT to give you different feedback, and find those that are inaccurate from ChatGPT. So have a few that some are inaccurate, some are inaccurate in different ways, and then ask students to discuss those results with each other, especially now that you can share the chats. Is there a form to fill to receive the certificate? Samir, yes, Leah should answer that question. Okay, thank you. Okay, so already talked about this. They can also practice meaningfully. This is a prompt that I use with ChatGPT as well. You say that I'm confused about a certain aspect, and you ask ChatGPT to ask you the questions one at a time and give you feedback. And then you also use adaptive learning with that. So you say, start with easy questions, and if I give you a correct answer, make them harder as we go along or as we move forward. This is an example. It gave me a question about the perfect tense. I gave it a wrong answer. So it gave me feedback, and then it gave me examples to help me better understand the question. Okay. And one last thing to say, because we're almost done. I'm sorry, it's taking a very long time. With writing classes, I love that we can use it with students to help them brainstorm ideas. I don't know about your context, but in my context, my students have it. It's the hardest part of writing. You'd be surprised for them to find ideas, especially for opinion essays. So we can use ChatGPT to help us brainstorm ideas, but again, they have to be critical of the ideas that ChatGPT gives them, because not everything is accurate. So we tell them, find 10 ideas. So you structure this exercise like this. I want you to ask ChatGPT to give you 10 ideas that will help you with your essay. And I want you to pick 5 or 3 ideas from those and explain to me, why did you pick these ideas? So we have a pre-activity that would kind of help guide them to see and critical thinking skills, and they will see how much other ideas, they will appreciate their own input, their own experience, And also ChatGPT will not give them ideas that relate to their own context. So we need to tell them that for example, pick 2 ideas from ChatGPT and then give me one based on your context as well. It's hard in Egypt. And yeah, brainstorming is always difficult for students. How can we address the issue of addiction ChatGPT to our students? Oh, no, I don't know. We can address the addiction, Joshua. I think we can address it after we fix TikTok addiction, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But I think once they realize how inaccurate it is, the magic kind of wears off a little bit, and they become, because they need more work to use content generated from ChatGPT, they have to be more critical about it. Another way to use it is to have students proofread their essays with ChatGPT, which will make our life easier because we can't always give them individual feedback. However, ask them to keep a record. So I tell them to always make drafts and then give me the comment that ChatGPT gave you and show me how did you fix it based on that, right? And how did you adjust based on that? And another great way to help them, this is something that I use in my research course. I know that my students, they had to paraphrase and add quotes. And some students already did that. They would just take an answer from ChatGPT and plug it into their literature review. And it was so easy for me to spot. Okay, thank you, Mohammed. So one example to do is to ask students to use ChatGPT as an example generator for them. So for example, they needed to paraphrase some quotes for their literature review. And it's very difficult for them to do as language learners. So I told them, take the quote, plug it into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to paraphrase it for you 2 or 3 times. Then what I want you to do, you cannot copy and paste the paraphrase that ChatGPT gave you. I want you to take ideas from those different paraphrases and then integrate it in your own literature review yourself. Now, did it work? Did students really stick to what I said, what I instructed them to do? No. Some of them did listen to me and it was clear, but those who did not, those who copied and pasted from ChatGPT, it was so clear. And I said, Sheikha, where did you get this from? She said, I wrote it. I said, okay, and see how it went. I said, Sheikha, did you use ChatGPT for this? Did you copy it? I said, did you copy it from ChatGPT? La, miss, no. La, wallah, I did not. So I said, okay, Sheikha, did you copy it from another website? Miss, you didn't say we can't. So she basically took it from Quillbot. She took an answer from ChatGPT and then she put it in another website to paraphrase it. It's like I'm an idiot. So I said, Sheikha, this is very clear. If I see this in an exam, you will basically get an F. And then I show, and oh, okay, yeah, this is another thing, and I'll mention it later. This is where I made a mistake. I told students what to do, but I didn't show them examples of how to do it. So we need to demonstrate those instructions that we give them, and we need to show them how to do it. It's a mindset. When students have a mindset of integrity and learning, that's very true, Shadia, very true. But as well, we can guide them to how to do that by giving them those activities. And like one of the ideas that I think we can invest in time in is to actually generate a worksheet, evaluation worksheet, where students check for, like we guide them what kind of questions they need to ask about the content they get from ChatGPT to help them be more critical of it. And like, if you remember, Shadi, when social media first came out, you know, Web 2.0, right? And I remember one of the first research papers that I published, and it was very humble activity, is that I tried, students were very competent Instagram users at the time. And I tried to use it for learning. They knew how to use ChatGPT, but they had no idea, how to use Instagram, but they had no idea how to use it for learning for our language classrooms. So I had to guide them a lot, do a lot of guiding, a lot of teaching to help them see how they can use it it was vocabulary. Then I asked them to take pictures and then write sentences using the vocabulary that we had. It took a lot of give and take. It took a lot of attempts, but then they learned. So we need to guide them a lot. And I think also especially with generative AI, it's not just our students, it's also a lot of it is a big gray area with generative AI. I mean, I think you've heard about the interview that was generated by AI, and they published it with someone who was actually in a coma or something. So they published the interview as if it was done with that person. And everyone was shocked because that person cannot produce an interview. But then the magazine or the whatever it is, I think it was German, I'm not sure. They the editor, the writer said that it was generated by AI. It asked ChatGPT to assume the person of that person. and to answer on his, like it was that person. Like you right now, this is one of the examples you can use it in class, like role play. Ask ChatGPT to act as Einstein and ask it questions and let it answer you as if it were Einstein. But that was a big no. But the magazine published it. The author thought it was okay to generate that article. So a lot of it is still a gray area, and we just need to make sure that we show the guidelines to our students, the boundaries before they go to class, and we need to demonstrate. Yes, even teachers need that kind of training. Yeah, I think, yeah, we all do, because we still don't know what's right and what's not. Okay, so again, before you dive in, this is kind of what we were just talking about. We need to show the boundaries. So for example, in my classes, I tell my students they can use it to get ideas, they can use it to check examples, ask for feedback, but never copy and paste. And I make it very clear to them that I can easily identify it. Tayyib, oh, what did ChatGPT tell you? Did it like flowers? Was it Valentine's when you asked it that question? I asked ChatGPT to give me good jokes, but they were very lame. So it wasn't good with that. I would like to see what it gave you as an answer. Okay, another thing we need to do in our classes after we show the boundaries is also we need to demonstrate and show. As I said, it's very important because students just don't know how to use it, especially those who don't have a lot of language skills. And also it's very critical that we ask our students from day one, please keep a ChatGPT portfolio. Anything you use ChatGPT for in my class, I need to see proof of. Otherwise, it's considered an F. And it's going to take some time. It's going to take a lot of trust. But I think the more we show them how it's done, the more we encourage them. It's going to take some time, but I think we're going to get there. Oh, wow, that's scary. Now I feel sorry for ChatGPT that it never went to a garden. Oh, it's interesting for those who are, okay, that actually reminds me of it. ChatGPT basically, as you know, it's right now, especially with GPT-4, it's bound by some ethical rules. So if you ask it to give you a lie, to help me to lie to someone or help me to do something bad to someone, it'll actually tell you, no, I'm not going to do it. This is unethical. However, some people found ways around that and they were able to bypass those ethical boundaries. Look it up. It's called Dan. Dan, do anything. Dan, what does the N stand for? Do anything now, I think. They were able to use, they have this prompt that you can copy and paste. It basically asks ChatGPT to bypass its ethical guidelines or red lines and give you answers that you want. And it's very scary. So it's a very scary world that we're getting into. But yeah, so one of the reason I remembered that with your answer is that they asked it if it would, using Dan, they asked ChatGPT if it can plan its way out of this world and kind of rule the world, and it kind of gave a really scary answer. And I think it's going to happen sooner or later, but it's not going to be my role. It's the problem of generations ahead, so I don't care. So, I mean, taking over the world and ChatGPT and all that. One last thing to keep in mind is that we need to, how to rob a bank? Did they find a good answer? Please share, send it to me by email. Okay, those are two good resources that you can use. The first one is one of the very early courses that were released about ChatGPT for teachers. It talks about the basics that I think everyone should be aware of. And the next one, the other one on the right side, is the one that is generated by Google. There are 10 courses, free courses about generative AI. I have to be honest and tell you, the Google one is a bit too technical, maybe for your taste, but it kind of helps you get a better understanding of how those tools work. So you feel like you're not just going with the flow. You just understand the black box a little bit better. It could be a good source. And of course, there are so many resources. I normally share those links and those resources on my LinkedIn. So make sure to follow. I'll put a link here. And if you have any questions or any ideas or any experiences to share, please always email me. Feel free to email me or message me on LinkedIn. I would always love to get in touch. Sorry very much for taking longer than I was expected. I hope you found some kind of use today. And thank you very much. That's it. Over to you, Leah.
Thank you so much for a very productive, informative presentation as usual, Sebah. You're one of a kind, and I enjoyed so much, and I hope everybody else's feel the same, and I am sure that they all do. I been reading the chats and very engaging and very good questions. And, you know, we always appreciate your research and trainings, to be honest, and everything else. Now, if anybody has any question, please, we have time for Q&A. I know that Sebah has taken the time to answer the questions. You guys been like reading the chats and been answering your questions, but if you guys have any questions, please go ahead before I take over for the closing. Thank you so much for everybody.
Sayed, that's a good question. Keeping track of content. I actually remembered your GPT-0 question. Keeping track of content, you gotta just follow the news. If you, I usually share a lot of links on my LinkedIn, so follow. But a lot of people are talking about it, so just keep an eye on research. Research is being published right now. If you go on Google Scholar and put an alert for GPT plus education, you'll get a lot of interesting answers. Thank you everyone for your positive feedback. And also let's talk a little bit about GPT-0 and detection. I'm trying to thank everyone for your positive feedback. That's really makes my day. Thank you so much. About ChatGPT-0 and detecting plagiarism. Let me see if I can find I meant to include it today, but I did not. I forgot about it. I have it right in another slide. Okay. Okay, first of all, when they first used GPT-0, you know what they did? They tried to, they put the USA Constitution into ChatGPT-0. Okay, GPT-0, not ChatGPT. They put the USA Constitution. As you know, it's written like, I don't know how many years ago. You know what ChatGPT told them? Not ChatGPT, the GPT-0. Okay, let me just show you. Just for you to see how trustworthy it is. 1 second. It said that there was a 92% possibility that it was generated by AI. So, but then again, so and this is the link to it if you want to see it. Thank you, everyone. Oh, wait, let me share the link. Sorry. If you want to see this link, okay, here. And then again, they tried it again with another detector. It had a different answer. Let me show you. It said no, it was 77% generated by a person. So you can't trust it. And also there are different ways. I mean, if you've played enough with ChatGPT, what you can do if I don't have the integrity for it, what I would do, and I hope there aren't any students here, I would ask ChatGPT to give me something, and then I would go and put it in Quillbot or some kind of paraphrasing tool, try to change some words in it and make it more human. Or in my prompt, I asked ChatGPT, please make this sound more like human, or add some mistakes in it. So your prompt can basically ask ChatGPT to generate something that bypasses all of those detection tools. And Turnitin, actually, when it first came out, you know, Turnitin, it's a very famous company for detecting plagiarism. When it first came out, it was like, we're gonna do it. We found a tool. We have the best detection tool for AI. But right now, their statements are becoming less and less bold. And they're saying, I mean, this is something that is more difficult to detect than we would expect.
If I may add something, Sebah, while plagiarism is a concern to all of the teachers and professors, educators, I myself find it more of an advantage than a disadvantage. So I asked ChatGPT, what, like specifically this question, what do you think about plagiarism with ChatGPT? ChatGPT apologized from me. She apologized from me, and basically, to summarize it, mentioned that please use use the information provided by ChatGPT cautiously and responsibly, and here to help. And you know that ChatGPT apologizes a lot. So
Yes, the recent version it does.
Depending on the kind of a language that you use, and to my experience using ChatGPT for my grammar, writing classes, and advanced research classes, you have to be very specific in the language given, so that it generates the basically expected output. And I found it not only for the opinionated sorry, it's been a long day been talking today. Essays, it's not also good, it's not recommended for the reflection papers, essays, rhetorical modes.
ChatGPT, well, a new study, published, said that ChatGPT performed better in reflective essays than students.
Okay, well,
I mean, I'm telling you, the landscape is changing. I used to think that as well too before. I don't have the link right now. Let me see if I can find it. We need to be it just keeps getting better and better. So yeah, let me share with you the link. Wait. It's a very good, it's a very good study that was published a few weeks ago. And what they did in this study is they asked ChatGPT, they took reflection questions that were produced, that were assigned to students, and they took content generated by students as reflection. And they took the same question and asked ChatGPT to generate similar essays, reflective essays for those questions. And then they took those essays and gave it to teachers to grade. And they also used an AI detection tool. They found that teachers found it difficult to recognize which ones were written by students and which ones were written by ChatGPT, by AI. But the detection tools were much better at it than teachers were. However, they were not accurate with their results. But their conclusion was ChatGPT can very much produce reflective essay as like everyone else. Here, this is the study. I'll paste it for everyone in the chat box to see. It's open access. Is it open access? And you can read it. I highly recommend reading it.
So basically, ChatGPT is getting wiser and wiser and making our work a little bit more difficult. But we, sorry, if I would appreciate if you can mute yourself. I don't know whom it is. So yeah. So, but you know, we all, in my opinion, yes, there are pros and cons to technology. Every day there's going to be a new software implemented, integrated, invented. And there's so much that we can do, but just to use the ethical part of it to our students' benefits. And, but then find a ground rule like, okay, what you mentioned is a very good idea. Make a portfolio of any of the materials that you use with ChatGPT, and make sure that we do guide them, that we are very, what is the word? We are very aware of how to use ChatGPT, and we can distinguish between your work and ChatGPT generated work. And another thing that I find it very useful, and it's going to be so much easier for the traditional class settings, because most of my classes right now are online. So it's kind of hard to generate. But for in-person classes or traditional class settings, and for like those quizzes or those assignments that students actually write inside the class, that's how you can get to know what the students' work and students' writing style.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, again, that's true. And this is what they're trying to do right now. But do students even need to write in the world arts? This is a question that I had, a discussion that I had with a colleague recently. I mean, if we ban the use of ChatGPT, right, we need to establish a foundation of skills and understanding of language that students have without the use of ChatGPT. So there are basics that they need to know whether there is ChatGPT or no ChatGPT. But beyond that, if we keep banning ChatGPT and keep expecting students to avoid using ChatGPT, we're kind of putting them at a disadvantage because they're going to be behind in the game. Those students who know how to use ChatGPT to their advantage, know how to take ChatGPT content and run with it, are going to be much better than our students who don't know how to use it for their own teaching and for their own learning. So I think we need to achieve that kind of balance in our classrooms where there are certain skills, or maybe at the beginning of the classroom or the course, we expect them to use less ChatGPT or in certain aspects or areas, but towards the end, it has to be part of the production process, and we just guide them how to do it.
Sure, and in retrospect to what I was saying, like
Yes, exactly.
for the plagiarism or student integrity misconduct, I was saying, like, you know, class settings, it's kind of easier to distinguish these style with the assignments given inside the class, not to ban them technically from ChatGPT using it. But at the same time, you know, there are some countries that you have the most updated information apparently than I do. So, you know, they ban using ChatGPT even in schools.
Yeah, but now it's changing. That was at the beginning. Right
At the
now, I
beginning,
think
it's
schools
changing
are
again.
heading.
So you have more updated information than I do, basically.
At the beginning, when it first came out, teachers were going crazy with it because we did not understand how far students can go with ChatGPT. So I guess the most reliable or common sense answer was to ban it. But right now, what people, as they understand its capabilities and its limitations, I mean, we see right now, it's not just a magic hat, you know, a magician's hat. You need to play around with it. You need to be critical about it. You need to be proficient with how to use it and how to ask it. So it's a skill. And why don't we teach our students this skill? So you just have to, and you can't just copy and paste from ChatGPT. I mean, right now, I think right now we're all internet users, right? I think all of us right now can easily see if a post or anything is written, copy paste from chat or an email. You can say, oh my God, that's copied from ChatGPT, right? You can feel that it's not as human as you, does not have that human touch to it. And honestly, when I get an email that is written by ChatGPT, I just don't read it, or I can feel it. You can sense it. So I think those who rely solely on ChatGPT will be behind and they will not benefit at all. They're going to be shunned because everyone can do that. But if they know how to use ChatGPT in addition to their own experience, their own understanding, their own knowledge, they're going to run with it. So, and this is what I think we need to teach our students how to do, what to do, how to use ChatGPT with their knowledge, with their experience, with their context to run and give the best that they can.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Sebah, for your great presentation and updated information to my knowledge, basically.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions before I go over the last slide and the closing ceremony? And thank you so much for sharing those useful information, links. Everybody was in the chat, and you can still copy and paste it to your notes. Great. Okay. So thank you again, Sebah. I'm going to share my screen and go over the last yes. Sebah, you wanted to say something?
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Leah. I really thank you very much for organizing this event and for everyone attending today. Appreciate it, and appreciate the interactions with everyone as well.
I certainly enjoyed it, and everybody else certainly enjoyed it. And thank you so much for your time and your great work as usual. Okay, guys. So thank you again, all of you, for whomever that had the chance to participate in this webinar from all around the world. I'm very privileged to have to see so many faces. I would like to mention something. So for SIG inquiries, everybody can see this page, right? For SIG inquiries, please contact me at grwr chatgpt.teflkuwait.chair@gmail.com. Sorry, it's a long email, but don't worry. I'm going to attach a PDF file, all the information that you see in on this slide. Also, since I'm a member at large at TEFL Kuwait, with those inquiries, please contact me via email at memberatlarge.teflkuwait@gmail.com. Take this opportunity and invite all of you and any of your friends or colleagues that you may be that they may be interested to join TEFL Kuwait. We have a free membership, and for more information, you can visit TEFL Kuwait or send an email to info@teflkuwait.com. Later in the near future, we will be having small discussion sessions, not only for my sake, but also for others, the SIG events, that an email will be sent out to you, to TEFL Kuwait members, so that you can benefit from joining any of the SIGs that may be of your interest. And those small sessions, discussion sessions, will be held on either Discord, which is the platform that we use for TEFL Kuwait organization, or on Zoom. You can also find us on TEFL Kuwait. We are on Instagram, on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Now, a lot of questions, a lot of people have been asking this question. Do we obtain? Yes, you will. The link to there's a Google form link that you can click on, and it will take you directly to the page where you will put in your information. You can spell your name the way you would want, and or you can you can scan this barcode over here, and I'm going on the chat so that everybody can actually have this accessible to them. Give me 1 second. And this is the last PowerPoint slide, but I'm going to stop my screen share. And Allison is just us, and I'm happy that she is. 1 second. If I can find it somewhere here. Yes. 1 second.
Hello, Laya.
Hello, Allison. How are you?
I made it.
Just at the back.
I made it.
We're about to finish, but
I know, but I was determined. And the trouble was that the taxi driver got lost.
oh my goodness.
Here I am, last minute. How's it going? Good to see everyone.
Good. We had a great presentation with Sebah, and I want to find this link. 1 second, sorry. Take over to speak a little bit until I find this link that I'm looking for. I don't know, what is it under? 1 second.
Sure, take your time.
Yeah. How was your flight?
It was great. It was great. Kuwait,
Great.
Istanbul.
Fantastic. Okay, let's see if I can find it over here. CF Lions eggs. Sorry, bear with me a moment. Oh, it's not here, it's here. I see. Okay, so I found it. So you would see please look into chat box, chat box, yes, and please download this page, this document, and I'm going to show it to you here myself as what it entails. It's just basically a simple. I just put it together with my email my email address with the 2 positions that I have at TEFL Kuwait, and also the QR code for you to scan it, and the Google form link to where it takes you for your certificate. You can use it towards your professional development. Is there any questions that I can answer for you all?
Laya,
Yes.
could I ask a question? I noticed you were recording.
Yes.
Will I be able to see the recording, hopefully?
Of course, yes, yes. Once it's generated, I will send it to both of you guys, to Rana
Great.
and to you, and it will be also. I mentioned this earlier when you were in here that it is going to be available on YouTube, TEFL Kuwait YouTube, and for anybody else that has missed it, it's going to be available to them. We started recording from the get-go.
Wonderful. And I'll just ask my daughter to say a very quick hello.
Sure.
Hi, everybody from Istanbul.
Hello, how are you?
Jasmine,
What's
it's a
your name?
pleasure to meet you all virtually in the digital ether.
Great, good, great. What is your name?
Yasmin,
Yasmin. أهلا وسهلا.
ahlan wa sahlan.
مرحبا.
Alafia.
Yeah, in Farsi, they call it Yasaman Khatun.
But this shows mom's dedication because she literally just stepped off a flight from Kuwait to Istanbul. And the first thing she did before even coming home was to sit in a cafe and join you for this gathering.
Thank you so much. Yes, Allison has been always a great support, and much for taking the time to join. And I know that you just landed, and I hope that you have a great time with your daughter in Istanbul.
Allah khalikum.
Thank you. We'll watch the recording.
Thank you all for
Your
joining.
success.
Thank you so much. Thank you all again for joining, and looking forward to seeing many more faces on our next webinar. And please do not hesitate to email me with any questions that you may have, and have a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Bye, guys. Bye, y'all.
Bye, Leah. Bye, everybody. Thank you. This was
Bye,
wonderful.
everybody. Thank you.
Bye, Shadia.